Hey everyone, let's talk about Scaffolded Assignment 4. We're getting toward the end of the semester, so the purpose of this assignment is to really give you one last opportunity to showcase the literacy skills that you have developed throughout the semester. Major Assignment 3 was all about synthesis, so we aren't going to worry about that here. Instead, we are going to look at summary and analysis one last time. We've been working on this all semester, so you shouldn't have any difficulty writing this piece. Let's break it down. So, as I mentioned a minute ago, and as you can see in the document, there are two reasons for doing this assignment. First, I want to make sure that you have a handle on summary and analysis. I know that you're probably tired of it by now, but it really is one of the most important skills in academic writing. That's why we harp on it so much. Second, I want you to have the opportunity to feel like an author. A lot of the time when you write something, nobody but the teacher gets to see it, and to be honest, we never think about it again. I know that's how I was back in the day. So for this assignment, you're letting someone else see your writing and treat it like we would any other essay that we have read in the course. The idea is to help you build a little ownership in your writing. Now let's break down what to do. It's actually pretty easy. All you are doing is writing around 2 pages where you summarize and analyze your partner's final draft. They won't see what you write, so you can be honest about how you find their essay. You're not trying to explain whether you think their writing is good or bad. Rather, you are looking at the argument they are making. The specific questions I want you to look at can be found right here on the assignment sheet. Basically, a good summary and analysis will do 5 things. It will explain what the argument is, what evidence the author used to make the argument, how they incorporated their sources, who you think the piece was written for, and whether or not the argument was rhetorically effective. That's all. Now, let's look at an example that I wrote for you based on my own example essay for Major Assignment 3. So in the example, I want to emphasize a few things. At the very beginning, I explain what the essay is about and what happens. This isn't the argument, it's just the context that you need to understand the argument. Then I give my own take on what the text of the argument is. If you notice, I'm just summarizing and paraphrasing here. I'm not citing direct textual evidence. I do the same thing for the next part of the response. I explain how I developed the argument by explaining the gist of the example in the essay. Finally, I move toward bringing in some specific textual evidence by providing a few specific examples from the text to support the argument. In total, I provide 3 specific examples that I used in the text to support my claims. In the next paragraph, I transition to analyzing the argument of the essay by noting the 2 types of evidence that are used in the essay. The first type of evidence is the easiest to identify. That's just going to be the story that the author is telling to make their argument. In this case, my reflections on working with the students at the newspaper. I argue that these reflections work well because they allow you to see how the author felt at the time. To support this claim, I bring in another textual example. And then explain exactly why this is effective evidence. The second piece of evidence that I analyze is the use of outside sources. For each source, I explain what their general argument is and how it is incorporated into the essay. This is another place where you're going to want to have a specific example from the text. Your goal here is to articulate how your author's perspective brings something new to the arguments made by the sources. Finally, I conclude by explaining who I think the audience is and whether or not the piece was rhetorically effective. So I hope this works as a good model for you all. If you have any questions, let me know.